a seat to the bar and join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tansen, Jess, and Maggie bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk. Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 9.23, The Unraveling, where we are covering the novel Summer Night. My name is Tansen, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
India, November.
Chapter 33. Elaine joins Harry in the fray and agrees to help him past Aurora's wall of thorns. Dresden makes it to Aurora just in time to witness Lily turn back from stone, and manages to stop Aurora from making her a sacrifice at the stone table. Dresden lets loose his secret weapon against Aurora and stops her from upsetting the balance between summer and winter.
Stupid Harry Dresden, so tall, bad depth perception, thinks it's going for his neck. It's going for the floor. Dude, you're fine. You're so dramatic.
Okay, but this really doesn't make sense, this scene. We finish off the last chapter with her plummeting the spear at his unprotected throat, and then it lands, poof, right next to his head. Why? So we find out in a second, because then she peels off the helmet, and lo and behold, it's Elaine.
Ugh.
And, and he's like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm glad to see you. And she's like, you always were dead. But I'm like, okay, if it had been a magic spear, an enchanted spear, or something, if it had had something to do with slicing apart this spell, but it doesn't. She stands there, wiggles her fingers, murmurs sayonara, and all of a sudden, right? So I was like, are you just dumb? Were you just being overly dramatic? Why did you need to drive this spear down, inches from his face? And then be like, gee, Harry, I'm here to save you. What's your problem?
Because Elaine's fucking nuts.
Just let a stupid spear next to it. Well, I know, but that's what...
She is fucking
she just does
nuts.
this little Savignana thing and gets rid of it. And I'm like, why? Dramatics. But yeah, so you can't really blame Harry for being all, because... there seemed to be it's not like there was something else, not like in the movies where the Robin Hood type character looks like they're aiming at you and then they end up cutting the rope through your noose or something, or you know what I mean, or there's a big tentacular alien right over your shoulder and you think they're or Murphy and the werewolf,
Yes, but
that
Butcher really likes ending his chapters on a cliffhanger.
As everybody does.
Every single one.
as most good novelists do to keep you hooked. And I can't put the book down now. I just got to read the next chapter. But from Elaine, like I say, right, unless it's almost is one of those stupid things, how we talk about in the movies, you'll see somebody sneaking around, or they'll duck around a corner and hide, and it's sure, from the viewpoint of the camera, they couldn't have seen you, but in real life, if you're just walking down the hall, you absolutely would have been in full view. We just didn't see you because the camera doesn't have peripheral vision, you know what I mean? But it's one of these things where I'm just I get the climax and the, oh my god, what's going to happen? But I don't know. I mean, it's...
So anyways, then there's this rapid firing between Harry and Elaine where Harry's like, well, I'll do this. And she's like, that won't work. And he's like, I'll do this. And she's like, that won't work. And he's like, okay, then I'll do this. And she's like, you could never do that. And then he's like, okay, Elaine, what the fuck do you want me to do then?
Yeah, right.
And then he's like...
She's like, run away with me again, obviously, duh.
Right? And he's like, you're going to help me. And then she's like, what? I couldn't. I could never. Blah. It's like, then why are you here, Elaine? What the fuck?
I know. Yeah, some of it is sort of... Because, so we find out that they're not just nasty thorns that will, hurt and poke, but they're poisoned.
Right.
So even just...
Thorns don't suck enough.
Impending death.
Yeah, so it's not just going to be, painful and pokey, but yeah, exactly. You get a little bit of a scratch.
Thorns that put everyone to sleep for 100 years?
Thank you,
or
Aurora.
maybe longer.
Right. So now that you pointed that out, that's
it's
just...
right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's there.
It's there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can't burn. You can't burn them either. They're
Yeah, right. So, because you can tell that he's like, I settle my hand. She's like, you can't burn them either.
Only a prince hacking down at them with a sword for looking for his true love.
Only, I was
Get
gonna
rid of
say,
the thorns.
only if you really love her, Harry. But yeah, so exactly. So this whole thing, because then he's like, okay, well, fine, you do it for me. And so it's sort of, okay, because she's like, it'd be like, holding a, like, trying
Screen
to
door.
blow open a screen door or whatever. Yeah, right. It's just gonna, so it's like, okay. And it makes more sense here in a way where she's like, if your concentration wavers, then, I'm like, okay, because then he basically says, well, you do it. Right? I'm like, well, isn't that basically the same thing that she's just going to be using a wind spell to hold open a screen door?
But her concentration is better.
But her concentration is better, and I guess that's
And
the
she's
thing,
not trying to move through it,
she's
too.
not trying to run through it and do and right. Like they're breaking it up into smaller tasks.
Plus,
each
hopefully,
kind
people
of a
wouldn't be
thing.
trying to kill her while she was holding it open.
Hopefully, which again is part of it. But I'm like, it's still like you're not just going to be some random. But she's like, how do you know? Like, how do you know I'm not going to just betray you again?
Don't you think this book would have been more like poignant and sadder and like emotional if he just killed Elaine now?
Yes, probably. Like,
I love how the Discord has just been like,
why
tell us
is
how
it-
you feel, Jess.
Right. Well, and somebody did point out, I think in the spoiler chat version, like very early on when you first started, like she does prove to have more, like for instance, now that we've gotten to that point, right? If it wasn't Elaine and their history, right, the whole getting out of the bog trap wouldn't have worked, right? Because they knew each other's spells, and because she was able to, just like old times,
The
hint,
familiarity,
nudge,
yeah.
that he finally went, oh, she left me a clue, and you know what I mean? Which, as like I said, I think it was Matt or something, I think, fairly pointed out, like, okay, you wouldn't have got that from a brand new, from Lydia or something like that. Okay, they have no history to go off of. They haven't worked together. They don't know each other's quirks and foibles and, cheating about their homework, right? So, yeah, some of that is fair. You have to say. Now you kind of, hindsight 2020, you kind of have to give, like, okay, there is
Could have given another way to get out of the trap.
Okay, you could have, but this is the
One
device
scene, though,
he chose to employ.
whatever. One scene wasn't good enough. Find me a second scene where Elaine is vital.
And she does tell him that you can't be sure that he can that he can trust her, but he's like, but I don't want to believe that, Elaine. We loved each other once upon a time. I know you aren't a coward and you aren't a killer. I want to believe that what we had really meant something, even now.
Yes.
That I trust you with my life in the way that you can trust me with yours.
Yeah. So this is the thing. So she's like, wait, you're going up against Aurora alone? And it's like, well, he's been trying to do that for half the book. So now you're surprised by it? Like, yes, he's been trying to figure out now that he knows who it is. Yes. And yes, he's going up her alone, kind of, sort of. But I was like, that's the whole point of all his buddies. Like, you've got all of summer and all of winter. And I'm like, okay, yeah, so everybody else get distracted and do your thing so I can concentrate on this one person. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, it kind of, yes, that was the point that Matt hired me to do. But yeah, this whole, how do you know I'm not going to just, and it's like, it's true. But at this point, Elaine, like, again, you've had so many opportunities where, you didn't take a more active role in taking him out at the Walmart. You gave him a way to get out of the trap in Fairy. You just released him from the spell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's dumb. She's like, well, how do you know I won't just do it now? It's like, well, then why did you bother releasing him 2 seconds ago?
Like, yeah.
You've asked him to run away and be like, this is, like, at the airport at least, where you're like, wow, this is too much, Harry. Let's just get the fuck out of here. And he's already like, I can't. I was like, now that he's all the way here and, like, 5 steps from doing it, like, I can kind of see you being like, okay, dude, like, now do you see what's going on? Let's fucking bail. But, I was like, then you could have just fucking left him to rot a dozen times already. So, again, that whole exchange just seems a little bit like, it's great to have Harry have his moment and say those wonderful things, but I'm like, yeah, I think the proof is already in the pudding, is it not? Like,
Kind of. Like, the timing is kind of like, now that, as you say, he's right about to be able to interfere.
yeah, like,
And she's still, like, a distractor from his goal.
yeah, and it's like, again, you weren't named, just a bunch of riders leapt over the river, and the one she that wasn't unseated, and, I'm like, they're still sort of hiding that it's Elaine, because she, whips off the helmet here and everything like that, right? But it's like, yeah, could have left him to get trampled by whatever when you guys, when Maeve and stuff backed you up in the first book, which she kind of did, she didn't really interfere then, and it's like, but she could have, continued to let him just be pinned down by the You know, I mean, like he says, and he says here in a minute too, like, you know, he's like, well, you know, you're going to help me. You've already betrayed Aurora. You know, and it's like, yeah, she's been a little bit all the way along in the fact that she has not at any point specifically actively tried to take out Harry. She's had to make it look good, but again, she's always, you know, pulled her punches or avoided whatever to actually have to do it, you know, so that she can't be blamed for betraying Aurora, but she's still not actually killing him. But
for all you know, though, like, in this moment, like, this could just be another ploy when Elaine was, like, sent to go and, like, seduce Harry, you know? Like, go convince him to run away and be with you, you know?
Sure, but...
So that's what crossed my mind, too.
But he was pinned to the ground by Aurora's spell. She didn't have to show her face at all. He may or may not have known that was her. I mean, again, depending on how, you know, astute you are or whatever with your, you know, whether readers, once again, assumed that this was, you know, the same entourage that's been going around, but... You know what I mean? It's not like he said, he's like, some masked warrior came up and drove their spear at my neck, you know? So it's like, as far as we can tell, nobody knows it's Elaine until it reveals to be Elaine. So I was like, she could have just fucked off like half a cohort ago. Like, once they came over the river, they split. Talos and Lloyd went to kill them all. Aurora and Korik took up the hill. Nobody was paying attention. She wasn't like, Elaine, with me. You know, Elaine could have just fucking disappeared in the background and got the fuck out of there then. She's already betrayed her as far as she's gonna go. She could have, you know, whatever, Harry, you fucking won't leave. It's up to you. If you're gonna stay up here and die, stay up here and die, you know? But, like, she keeps keeping tabs on things, and she keeps, like I say, she literally 30 seconds ago was like, here, let me undo that spell that you're under. It's like, then you literally didn't have to do any of that.
Which is very convincing if she's trying to seduce him away.
Okay, but what would be the point? Why release him to seduce him? Just leave him.
To get him out of the situation? Because there's still a possibility that he could get out on his own. Because he is Harry.
I was like, it could be not a plan with Aurora. It could be just Elaine's plan. Maybe you and me can just run away and forget this ever happened, you know? It's still betrayal, but maybe we both live.
Well, okay, yeah, that's Elaine's.
But there is enough benefit of the doubt for... There is enough suspicious behavior on her part still for him to have doubt.
Well, yes, and I'm sure, like you say, when you're in that situation, it's a lot... Again, it's easier for us to see. We've got the cut and dried. We've got, like, well, this is what's happening, and the... You know, same thing like when we were talking about just that, I think because it was the episode that probably just came out, which is why it's on my mind. But again, where you're like, automatically recognize that it was like Talos and Korik. And it's like, well, again, really, like, sure, in Harry's world, you wouldn't necessarily. In our world, we're like, well, we've been introduced to 10 people in these books. So obviously, you know, it had to be one of these 10 people. You know, it's like, Aurora's got 5 friends. Gee, the unicorn and the ogre are on her side. It must be 2 of her friends. You know what I mean?
Yes and no. But at the same time, it's also like... You don't know at the beginning of a book. Are we going to meet 10 friends or are we going to meet 12 friends? Like, it doesn't, like, the book doesn't tell you, like, when you're going to stop meeting friends.
No, but you know what I mean? Like I said, just to say, like, I know sort of for us, we're going to be like, sure, Harry, it might be like, can you trust her? Can you not? I mean, God knows I have enough issues of that in my life where, you know, I'm like, I apparently am terrible at reading people. But,
either way.
Anyways, I just find this all a little bit, again, just plot devicey or something. Like, it just doesn't really seem to properly mesh. It's convenient or inconvenient or whichever way it goes. But
I found it a little saccharine myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you saying these things in Susan?
Well,
This is just a little bit too much familiarity. Well, you...
And you know what, I can kind of even get that a little bit. I can kind of get sort of the, I don't know, for lack of a better word, the, like, nostalgia or sentiment of, you know, that first love. Especially...
Well, throughout this whole book, he flirts with that line a little bit.
He does. Well, I mean, again, okay, it's not
Are you in love with Susan or aren't you?
Well, okay, he's in love with Susan, but Susan also took off and left him. Like, it's not like he's...
Well, I mean, it starts off the book as this is, like, his end-all, be-all. It's
his full obsession.
Yeah, he's obsessed. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's just dropped once Elaine walks in the door.
Oh, well, to be fair to that point, at the same time as Elaine walking in the door was like Fairy Queen and Wizard Court wanting to send him to war with the Red Court all by himself. He's got a lot to think about. As much as I'm sure he would like to be sitting in his basement crying about Susan, he does have 800 people trying to kill him right now.
If he had his way, he would still be sitting in his basement crying about Susan.
Right?
The only reason
I will say, Elaine, it's not just Elaine showed up on his doorstep. Elaine showed up with a war on her back.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I mean, again, it's a low point, right? Like I say, he's more... I mean, this is the thing is that, you know, Susan wasn't like, fuck you, Harry, I hate you, but she was like, I can't marry you right now. Like, this isn't the time to make that decision or whatever, you know? they had
A bad
sort of
situation.
a nice amicable breakup where it was obvious, both sides still kind of cared about each other. He's carrying this torch. And then again, like your first love, who you also thought was like gone forever, but oh my God, she's suddenly come back again. So there's hope there. There's unfinished business. There's,
True, maybe this is just one of those, like, the love I couldn't save the one I did love, but now I can save this other love, He's like, be placing his, like, Susan trauma on top of her.
Yeah, and I think just again meld into the situation is that Susan's not there. Susan did leave to go pursue something else, and
If I can't save Susan, I can at least save Elaine.
Yeah, and
Not that Elaine deserves it, because we don't like her.
no, you keep saying this "we" thing, but
I speak for the podcast.
Your feelings are much strong. I'm a little bit more ambivalent. I've never loved Elaine. I do not seem to hate her.
I am
with
the
passion
Lorax.
that
I
you
speak for the trees, and the trees say, "Fuck you, Elaine."
I do find myself becoming a little bit biased because of
She
you.
sucks, right?
Well, she makes her, but anyways, so whatever. Yeah, like I say, I can sort of defend that a little bit with, I can kind of see that again, here's a little bit of a romantic. He's never had a lot of luck, and maybe that's why, is because he doesn't have a lot of luck, so, hope springs eternal and all that. But I'm like, yeah, I could see if
Very much avoidant attachment style, really.
Yeah, but if some high school sweetheart suddenly showed up and we had a chance to kind of reconnect, and you know what I mean? Ultimately, it might not go anywhere, but I can kind of see getting caught in that a little bit and just being like, it's suddenly, or again, like you say, rebound, whatever. You've just come out of a traumatic, bad situation. Your girlfriend's basically like, well, it's kind of your fault, but not really your fault, but totally your fault that I kind of almost got turned into a vampire. So now I have to go and change my entire life, and we can't be together because I might kill you, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And now it's just like pure, simple childhood love again,
Other than the war thing.
Other than the war thing.
The other war thing.
We bonded over the trauma of Justin, and, we're orphans, and we're, it's, right? They have that connection, whereas that was,
You're an orphan, I'm an orphan.
It does sort of develop, and establish just how fucked up he is with relationships, though.
Well, it is, but that's what come on, it's like every fan fiction ever is like, how much trauma can we put them through to bring these characters together?
Fan fiction. That's not actual content.
Nothing bonds.
I don't think that makes for really good.
It does sometimes.
He doesn't actually address his issues. It doesn't make for.
Well,
a
that
good
also makes for really good fan fiction and just regular
Is
fiction.
there a fan fiction when he goes to therapy?
I don't know. It's really funny. I have a really hard time getting into fan fiction about books, because books are books. They're already fan fiction about movies and TVs is no problem, because I'm like, well, there's so much.
Oh, the writers on that already suck.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much you can't put into movie and television that you have to get out of. Whereas in books, there's no limits to that, right? So exactly, I have consumed a lot of slash fan fiction, because you're never going to get it in the actual show or whatever, much as more of that is coming out and about, but you know what I mean, right? There's still a lot of, and it's yeah, exactly. It's you always have to have some traumatic situation for why they would turn to each other, or why they would end up in the situation, or why they're going to bond and become, right? So yes, fucked up as it is, we're not saying none of it isn't, but yes, Harry has this whole fucked up trauma, and it's
healthy relationships just don't sell.
Okay, but you know how when you're a kid, when you're in junior high and high school, and shit hits the fan, it's the worst shit ever, right? You can't imagine life getting worse than this. And then if you manage to survive to your 20s, and then to your 30s, and then to your 40s, and then to your 50s, and you're like, my God, I wish I had the problems I had in middle school, right? You're like, wow, that is so doesn't matter anymore. And I think that's a little bit with this too. Much as him and Elaine were psychotic and crazy and trauma, it's also I want to go back to the simple time where it was just our adopted dad trying to kill us, not fairy wars and vampire wars. It's Elaine just represents a simpler, more innocent time. It's just straight up death and destruction, not all this mind fuckery. So, anyways.
Once I wish I
They
had a
just
girlfriend who wasn't
weren't
eating
able
my
to get
albums.
out of the cycle of abuse in the first time, so they're just picking it up straight where they came from.
Right? You don't know. That's just, right? It's
Supernatural doesn't believe in therapy,
Not
okay?
that I'm judging.
no. But yeah,
At your own
right?
pace, Harry. At your own pace.
But that's true for a lot of us, right? It's you can go out in the world and meet somebody at work and be like, wow, you are a totally manipulative, narcissistic asshole. And then you still go home and agree to lend your brother, $2,000 because it's not really his fault. He's had all this bad luck, and it's, again, it's you so easy. It's I cannot recognize the pattern of abuse, or I can't get out of it, or whatever with your family and your things. You're I can look at other people and be like, wow, you're so fucked up. But no, I'm totally normal over here. It's
So ultimately, Elaine agrees to help.
Not that my brother has called to borrow money, I'm just saying. More likely I'm asking him.
So she does agree to help and
She
draws
does.
up this huge wind spell that bends the wall of Thorn's way for Harry to get through.
Go, Harry. I can't hold it for much longer. So yes, he does go sprinting through and does feel a snag, but thankfully it does not get through his leather,
His leather jacket from Susan.
from Suzanne.
In case you forgot, Harry.
Which is when you think about, like, this jacket has put up with a lot of...
Since
like,
werewolves.
Yeah, if this was my jacket, it probably looked like shit by now for...
Well, if it's leather, it just
It's
gives
leather,
it
yeah.
just gives it
the distress,
character.
that character. But yeah, but I mean, I don't know, maybe not very... I think I've only owned one ever, like, real leather coat in my life, so maybe that's... But I just feel like, you know what I
even
mean?
the canvas
Like,
ones are like heavy.
well, the canvas ones are heavy, I know. But I just feel like things like this, like getting, like, thrown up into trees and, like, snagged on thorns, like... None of this ever ripped it. Like, I get the distressed look and the
I don't know, I
worn
feel
and the
like
broken
leather
in and the
keeps
creased. and
better
the-
than cotton, though, or something like that. Like, it would hold up against
than
a lot
cotton,
of small...
yes.
Well, most jackets are fabric, right? The leather's going to hold up a lot better than most fabric jackets.
And
Well,
those
plus...
they are designed to be resilient for the outdoors.
Also, if you have to go home and polish your gun and polish your blasting rod and polish your staff, you might as well fucking do the
Well, yeah,
jacket
okay,
too.
obviously, you know, Harry looks after his jacket.
He
like,
might take it to a leather crafter and be like, I ripped it again.
I've got no money,
guess.
but you fix this right now. I have a
The
look.
car, I don't need groceries, fix the coat, please.
I have a look.
Yeah. It's like, I need my car to run and I need my coat to work.
This is the
Everything
last-
else, I don't need shoes, I don't need...
Last gift from Elaine. I need this.
Yeah.
I need this.
No, I'm not. I know they're tough, and I granted, I know it will hold up to a lot. I mean, just like rolling around in the grass and things like that and stuff like that, I get. But it's just, you know, again, like you think if like a werewolf is slashing at you, that might actually rip the leather, or getting hurled into a tree, although I don't think he had the coat on at that point because he puts it on to go to. But you know what I mean? It's just some of these. I'm like, it's good, it's great. It's just every once in a while when you think about how much abuse and how much stuff is coming at him, and you're like, it's really very impressive.
They're aiming for his face, not his jacket.
This thing, yeah, but you know that you have not absolutely shredded and destroyed this jacket yet. Jeez, people.
You're trying to insult the jacket.
I'm not trying to insult the jacket. I love the
We
jacket.
like the
I adore
jacket.
the jacket. I can't wait until.
Stop wishing harm on the jacket.
I'm not wishing him. Oh my goodness. So yes, so he manages to sneak through. Aurora is busy unraveling the thing against Lily. And he's trying to sneak up on her, stay out of her peripheral and stuff like that. And he's not fast enough because she manages to finish. And Lily suddenly becomes Lily and suddenly goes, what the fuck? Because the second she changes back, Aurora's like grabbing her by the throat, spinning
for the
her
knife.
down onto the table, raising a knife. And Lily's like, what the fuck? Like, and it makes you wonder, like, I don't know if, you know, probably not. Lily probably wasn't really aware of the last couple of weeks or however long
your
she
synapses
spent.
don't really fire all that well
I'm
when
going
you're
to I'm going to assume
stoned.
this little stasis thing that, yeah, exactly. I mean, again, like, obviously, if you can change her and change her back, then all those things have to be there, but whatever. Right, but
It's gotta be
exactly,
very
she's-
disorienting.
It's got to be very disorienting, because she's gone from, and we know,
Imagine feeling your body turn to stone, like while you're conscious before you actually lose that
Ew.
consciousness.
Yikes.
Right?
No.
I don't know.
That sounds
This-
horrible.
Hope it starts
First you,
with the
first
head
you
down.
get this power invade you, and then
I'd hope it'd be like a snap. Like you're just like blank stone. Fine.
Yeah,
oh, I
start
imagine
at
it would
the
just
head
be way
down.
more horrific than that.
Yeah, I really don't know.
I take it more
obviously.
as like the Medusa. Like you just look her in the eyes and that's
Like
it. You're
poof.
stuck.
Crunch.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that we sort of don't know exactly how this went down. So again, we've sort of inferred that Slade is the one that grabbed her from the apartment or whatever, right? And then obviously, yes, she had to be, you know, well, not necessarily conscious, I guess. Who knows? They could have just knocked her out one way or another, but presumably somewhat conscious for when this power got zapped into her, and then she was changed and everything, right? But you're like, did she ever know it was, you know, did she only see Slate? Did she know Aurora was doing this? Like I say, did Slate grab her, you know, inject her with something, chloroform or knock her out, and then boom, you know, get rid of Rule, here's the power, here, you know what I mean? Like, all we know is that she's kneeling and looking sad, so it's like you kind of feel like she must have kind of, because I almost feel like it was this, like, power going to her that she's like, you know, like, oh my god, what just happened? And, like, freeze, you know, kind of a thing, right? Like, but yeah, all of a sudden, 1 minute you're whatever, you're looking at Aurora, you're looking at Slate, you're looking at Ronald, and the next thing you know, you're suddenly being, like, thrown on a table and about to be stabbed by, like, your would-be protector, big sister, watcher, outerer, you know? It's like, what the fuck?
I do like that Dresden just goes straight for physical violence again with his staff. Smash!
Right? Wasn't all that gentlemanly, but I just whacked her in the back of the head with like a 2 cent. And I mean, really, what else are you? I mean, like he's safe for. I mean, obviously magic. He's seen time and again both just the power of the fairies and even just trying to go up against Slate and you know what I mean, and Talos with his. You know, he's like, this isn't gonna fucking get me anywhere. Either they can just blow it off, it's not gonna matter, or they can outpower me. So. Yeah, he goes for that, you know what I mean?
Whack.
I was like, let me just try and bash her unconscious or something, and hopefully that will.
And it's enough for Lily to get away.
And it's enough to disrupt things in the moment, exactly. But as he does it, midnight hits and switches over. So now the table, so while it may or may not still be surrounded by, defended by summer forces, the power of the table has crossed into winter, and it, you know, changes colors to show that effect that now it is on.
Too late.
It's too late. You can't. It's here. So the second anything happens, so he manages, you know, knocks the knife, and Lily's like, what the fuck, and just tries to get away, and you have kind of a scramble where, again, in those speedy, supernatural, all fairies are born super ninjas.
Fast as fuck.
Fast, yeah, you know, she's you know, kicking him and whatever, and blah, 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 and trying to grab, and so there's the whole big battle over, and then what is it, if Dresden tries to blast a big thing of fire, or she blasts fire at him and he deflects it or whatever, but you get this big sort of firestorm, and in the glow of that, now you see once again, fucking Talos, still not down and out, leaping over, and again, his poor horse. So his poor horse gets, like, kneecapped by this wall of force the first time, and now he's just gonna, like, rides it over this wall, which the horse has no hope in clearing. But again, Talos, with his super ninja reflexes, manages to do a fancy flip off, and it gives him enough momentum and a launching place to clear. But this poor horse just goes down in the fucking thorns and just, like, and I mean, again, animal screaming is not, you know, like, people screaming is not a good thing either, but we should, you know, we're used to that for all kinds of reasons. Little kids shriek and laugh and play, or you get scared, or you know what I mean? But it's like when you actually hear, like,
Animal screaming is pretty harsh.
Yeah, because so many of them, I don't know if it's just because so many of them are so more, like, quiet otherwise, or if it is just the fact that they only do it when it's really
I don't know what's happening. I don't know.
Right?
It's
like,
harsh.
It's harsh. It's harsh. Right. But, yeah. So yeah, he's basically like, well, I need to get across. I will sacrifice my horse. Thanks, buddy.
So he starts his attack, and we get a surprise, which is Meryl ripping her way through the wall of thorns as a full-on troll.
Yeah.
And it's really quite the sad moment.
Oh,
like, it's
beautiful.
Really
it's heroic.
To
it's
lose her
poignant.
humanity.
Yeah.
And it was Meryl.
Yeah.
She'd chosen.
Damn. And it's kind of ironic, you know. Well, I hate the use of ironic. That's
because we never know if we're using it right.
Yes, I know. But in her,
which wasn't
in her choice to lose humanity, it is like a huge humanitarian act.
See, I think you would use it correctly there.
Is it?
It would be ironic then.
Yeah. You can keep it. Okay. But yes, exactly. The choice of losing her humanity was the most humane thing she could have. Right? She did it for very altruistic. Human love reason, exactly. It's beautifully put. Yeah, and that's and you're right, because you know he arrives and Aurora's like, okay, I got backup, right? Because she's like, kill him, Lord Talos, like get this the fuck. Because again, they're still semi-protected within this wall of things. You know, I mean, obviously people are finding ways to get through, but it takes time and effort. You got to have a horse that can jump really high. You got to be able to leap off the horse, or you got to be able to have spells that can hold it open, and you know what I mean. So she's kind of like, even okay. So now you've got Lily and Dresden. Well, Lily's not really. I mean, she can sort of fend for herself a little bit. I mean, obviously she's not magical, she's not powerful, she's not, you know, like a buff, strong gym rat or any, you know, she's just this wimpy little girl, which is partly why they picked on her in the first place, you know? So it's not like she's really much of a backup. She's just pretty. And so, right, so you've got, you know, Dresden and Aurora, which you could maybe sort of, you know, head to head, but now you've got that off battle. Right now, Aurora's got somebody else powerful on her side. Things are looking bad for Dresden again. Right? And it's like in that same instant, as soon as he's like, fuck, then exactly, you just hear this bellowing and this fuck the world just rips through it. And again, it's kind of interesting with, although I guess maybe ogre and troll don't have, because, you know, again, you've gone through a lot of this, like, where ogres just blow off magic, and this doesn't, but I was like, but apparently, again, the fairies poison thorns still. Again, it just comes back to that whole, I don't get the rules sometimes. Like, why fairy magic is weaker in fairy than it would be in, I don't know. But anyways, it doesn't matter. But yes,
right.
It is. He's like, you can tell it's a troll, you can tell, you
she's-
can recognize Meryl.
Right. She's got nothing to lose anyways at this point.
Nothing.
She's dying anyway.
She's,
Exactly.
that was it. Exactly. It was, as far as a human mortal person, that was a completely mortal wound. She was not coming back from that at all. So
Right.
this is, her last.
Meryl grabs Talos, who cuts one of her hands
I know,
off.
well, yeah, she goes to reach for
But she
him. and
still
he just-
manages just to grab him and
she's
just crush him into the ground.
Yeah, she's like, fuck this, I'm still going. Like, exactly. She didn't really have anything left to fight with. She had nothing sort of counter his fancy tricks and his, like I say, he's still armed.
Just
like,
the
she's just
sheer
reaching
power.
from him, and he takes off her frickin' hand. But she's, like, so determined to make something count, to make something out of this. And she does. She's like, maybe I can't,
It's crazy.
woo, but I can just bury you under a ton of troll.
Because Jim Butcher, he goes, it was Meryl. She'd chosen. Last time she gets female pronouns. It goes it from then on out.
Yeah.
Oh,
It did this, it did that, it. It's like, damn, that monster changes you fast.
Right.
I've noticed that he has done that, because he has done that in the past with Bianca, when she turned
Yep.
into
That's
a
what she
monster.
changed, yep.
She became
As soon
it.
as it's a monster, he's like, forget that.
You're an
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is stupid because you're right. Had she survived to do anything else, they sort of made this point when she's like, sometimes I think it'd just be easier to give up, and he'd be a monster, and she's like, but a happy monster, right? So it's like, you're not retained, the only reason she's retained anything at this point is because it's just happened. It's
That's just in your mind right now is kill the bad guy, which is, Summer.
Yeah, or whatever, those last vestiges of humanity, but like you say, is once you spend any length of time, he says it with the wolf belts, right? So like, we don't know exactly because they never really talk about it, but we're assuming it must work differently for Billy and them because none of them have gone batshit crazy. But with even just the Hexen wolf belts, he's like, the longer, the more he was a wolf, the more he wanted to be. And like, that was what Agent Ben's whole thing was, right? Is she started totally going, she wanted to be a wolf all the time and constantly just rip, tear, murder,
Overly addicted to it.
Overly addicted to it, right? And like you say, when Harry tries it on for a while, he goes through some of that, right? So it's like, you're like with every passing second, just the last, whether it would have taken 5 minutes or 5 days or whatever, right? But it's like, it would have been there, and it is and that's it. And yeah, thanks to the grievous injuries she's already taken and all the giant poison thorn hedge. So yeah, she basically, like you say, just buries him under, don't know if he's dead or not, but he's definitely going to take a while to dig himself out from under, 1,000 pounds of troll or whatever. Yeah. So manages to effectively
Levels the playing field.
the playing field, yeah. So take that piece out of commission.
Right. And Aurora does end up catching Lily and brings her back to the table. And Dresden does get the knife away from Aurora. She's just like, I don't care. I'll just rip her throat out.
Yeah,
like,
she's like, I don't care. She just needs to die and bleed on this tube.
And then we get this lovely moment where Dresden's like, toot toot.
Toodaloo.
Right. Yeah. He's like, no, you won't. Oh, yeah. Why?
I know something you don't know.
Again, instead of just ripping out her throat now that we're here and now, I will stop and engage because I'm a psycho fairy queen and,
I've been practicing my speech all summer.
Yeah. What could you possibly know that would matter now? And again, to all the readers, for the first time, I know the number to Pizza Express. And you just go, ooh, because he's been carrying, right? When he goes back, what do you wear to a war? Well, I decided to go with basic black. Then I took my little doctor's valise and dropped it outside. And then when it was time to go, I took it with me. And then I asked Billy, did you get them? And he got me this box of knives, and I dropped them in my doctor's valise. And then I just carried it around. And at some point, I had to put it down and swing my staff and blast my rod. And then
When
I
did
made
he
sure
have time to gather all of these fairies to
and
put
then
them in it?
That's exactly when, because he put the bag outside, went in, got dressed, gathered his shit.
Oh.
So that's what he says. He's like, he came home, made a few calls, put the doctor's bag outside his front
I
door,
missed that. Okay.
goes,
Okay.
gets dressed,
What do you get
finished
dressed for?
making.
Meet up with Billy, run to Walmart. Yeah.
did you get it? And then he
Right.
dumps it all into the bag, and then, like you say, at a couple of points throughout, you've had him be like, I looked around for my bag, and it was still there, and like, what is the fuck is he carrying this bag around? And, like, yeah, okay, he's sort of, like, in other cases, I do like that he goes a little bit for the comfort, because, again, doctor's release, we're imagining, like, this sort of hard-sided leather kind of, right? Because normally his backpack, we've seen him grab his backpack and throw magical doodads. I'm like, well, it's nice he didn't throw them all in there to, like, get squished and bounced and...
Right.
At least the walls with this thing would have been kind of secure to fit them all in there and not like a soft-sided backpack. But you're like, what the fuck is
It'd be funny if it was like a pet carrier instead.
It essentially is, but kind of cooler and more
Mr.
quirky
rides
than
around in
doctor's
style.
release. Yeah, right. Like the little mesh out the. It's claw-proof. You cannot scratch through that. So yes, now we finally find out what the fuck is up with this doctor's bag that he has been carrying around, and he puts it down and
In the name of the Pizza Lord, charge!
yes, and it's not just Toot. It's a dozen of them, half a dozen of them, however many dozen or some, and then yes, and you discover the point of the box knives.
Yes, this is very clever.
Very clever.
Very, very clever.
Plastic covered steel blades. Mm-hmm. So damaging, but not. But this. And this is, again, where I'm going to get a little... I mean, again, maybe it's the length of time it takes to, like, describe all of this. Whereas, again, it would happen a lot more instantaneously. Same thing, like, when, like, people are trying to hold their breath. It's like, okay, I'm sitting on my couch for 5 minutes while the scene plays out. But, really in the scene, it was like 5 seconds. It's just by the time they changed the angles and showed you what this person was doing and showed you what that person was doing and then cut back to the person who's drowning.
Everyone gets their 6 seconds.
Everyone gets their
in
6
one round.
seconds in one round, and it's exactly right. But I'm like, you've been blasting and I mean, like, Aurora's not that beat up at this point. Like, she's expelled, okay, she trapped Harry and she did some shit, but again, she's a fairy queen. She's got a fair amount of power. Now, we saw Maeve get some of that tapped a little bit when she went up against Lloyd, so again, it's not an indefinite, infinite supply or reserve. But we haven't seen her mostly, right? She's been like, you guys take care of all this shit, I'm gonna go kill the girl, right? So as far as we know, she's not really that tapped out. She's not that low on power. She's not that exhausted.
Right, but I mean, if we look back to with the effect of the metal that's going to have on her, if we look back when Dresden first tests Mab with the nail, and it's such an extreme reaction like that, and they like freak the fuck
I get
out.
that.
Like it had like. And she is one of the lesser ones. Like,
yeah, no, that I understand. I have no problem with the effect the steel has on her. I have a problem with the fact that the pixies got close enough to cut her with box knives.
well,
She
that's
could have
sure shock value, I think.
well, and it must have been.
did
But
he
she's like,
throw it at
no,
her feet, maybe?
no, you know what I mean? Because, and I mean, he does kind of say that it did take her a second. It's like he saw the fear, and then she did go to do something, but it was too late. They were already there. But I'm like, again, if you're this afraid of this, and you have the power, like, again, I'm like, she blasted Dresden down the hill with a wind spell. She,
no one suspects the tiny fae, okay?
No, and I get that too, but it's just,
that
again,
would be
after
like-
all of this, like, she's in the last minute.
I don't think she would think that they would be able to do it. Like a
Well,
bunch of
and
little
she-
tiny pixies
well, and that's
attacking
what
you,
she
so the
says.
fuck what?
Exactly, right?
She does say that. She's like, "Pff, what are they gonna do, But I was like, again, I'm like, then why didn't you blast them out of the way? Like, once they all pulled out their box knife, because again, he's like, oh, there's that moment of recognition and fear, and she met my eyes. And then she's like, wait, I should do something. And
When
by
he
then
was
it
running up behind her to bash her in the head, that would have been the time to open the release.
Right, that's when they would have got her, find it interesting or whatever, or just, again, really cling on to that suspension of disbelief or something, where I'm like,
and part of it
feels
might
like
be
she
because
coulda had a
you've
second.
read it a number of times over and over again. Whereas, like when a reader reads it for the first time, they're still taking in that information as well.
Yeah, you're taking everything's
Going,
a shock, everything's a
Wait a
surprise.
second, that just happened, and then they're putting the things
Yeah.
back together in their head.
Yeah, and that
So
is
it's-
fair. And again, on the millionth read through, you're like, ugh, this again? Like, shouldn't she have? Yeah. But again, right? I'm like, it works out. It does. That she is off guard long, or again, scoffing, like, what are they going to do? Until she realizes that they're coming at her with steel. And by then, once they sort of get the one cut in, that's enough to disrupt and start jumbling that the rest of it starts. And then she doesn't, I was going to say, it's like, once she gets the cut, once they can touch her with the steel, I get that. But I was just like, I don't know. It just seems like, once again, she gave them an awfully, it's like the old Hercules cartoon, which I think I've mentioned on this
Multiple
before.
times.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
You really like this example.
Really like that.
It makes sense, and it comes
Cartoon.
up a lot. Which I don't even really like the cartoon that much, I don't think.
But it was an
it's-
impactful cartoon.
It was apparently
It was
impactful.
formative.
Well, okay. We all have our fallbacks,
okay? Guess how old we are.
But yes, whatever. Anyways, so they do all come at her. They do manage to cut her up. They do manage to go against the Fey kind in honor of the Pizza Lord, and
Aurora does have just enough sense that's still with her to try to drag her own bloody body.
She's like
on her death knell.
At the very
let
least,
me die on the
fine.
stone
At
tablet.
least let this happen.
Right.
Yeah, she's like, fine,
Sacrifice.
I'm going to go down with it, but I can still make, it wasn't the way I was planning on doing it. I was going to sacrifice this other power, but
Throwing yourself at a
very
dying
altruistic.
girl.
as, right, well, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, but it's kind of like what Meryl just did, right? I'm already
I
going
know,
down,
but
I
fuck.
make one last hurrah and change
Very dedicated.
the table,
It's so
change the balance, whatever, tip
so
the scales.
sad though. Like you launch yourself at her, and as you're pressing her into the ground, this moment between them.
Oh, the
holy
death scene is so
fuck.
fucking sad. I put it down in quotes because it just was so like.
By all means.
Wait, you don't understand. I just wanted it to stop. Wanted the hurting to stop. I smoothed the bloody lock of hair from her eyes and felt very tired as I said, the only people who never hurt are dead. The light died out of her eyes, her breath slowing. She whispered, barely audible, I don't understand. I answered, I don't either. A tear slid from her eye and mixed with the blood, and then she died.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether or not you know what the hurting was or not, as we will learn as the series goes on, either way, knowing or not knowing, fucking devastating.
Yeah, right. She's
Like-
like, but I just wanted to fix everything.
And yet another, this is such a great example of the effect of trauma and PSTD, or
Also-
PTSD, pardon me.
Yeah.
I think a credit to Jim Butcher just how early on in the series he set up this problem. Because
Yeah.
as much as you can say what happened to Victor Sells and what happened to the agents, as much as you can talk about what happened to Kravos, it's this one here. He could have called anything in those first 3 books, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But this right here is the first nugget that you're like, oh, something's wrong.
But
But we don't know. Well, it's not really.
It is and it is. I was going to say, it's not, you're not giving me specifics or anything, but at the same time, I was like, again, the first time you ever go through this series, you don't know there's any
Yeah.
kind of a running theme or anything's going to be really connected any more than things in a series are connected. Okay, Murphy is going to be in another book and this and that, and things are going to, and obviously it's all, but yeah, I do kind of love how, you're also right from the start. You're like, well, this is all going to, everything comes together, everything goes together. There's a whole big running theme through it, and you're like, oh, wait, what? Huh? But, yeah.
A series has a running plot in the background.
I know, it's crazy, right? They're
Weird.
not just all standalone books.
So I really kind of his answer really struck me. The only people who never hurt are dead, and it sort of struck me as this passive acceptance of all the pain that he had been feeling up to this point, and sort of at this point has just finally accepted it.
Life is pain.
Yeah, and I think
Life is pain, princess.
I think he also-
Anybody who speaks differently is trying to sell you something.
I think he also recognizes at this point what unchecked pain can do. Seeing what happened to Aurora, because she just
There was a lot of closure here.
Well, and this is it. It always comes back around to itself in every book.
right. And I mean, she tries to even take away his pain. Granted, she does have a specific purpose in doing so. But I think it also shows her own
an
desire to
ulterior-
make her own pain stop.
Yeah. Nobody can take away my pain. I could do it for you, though.
Right. And she is solely focused on killing the pain, making all the pain go away. But the difference with Dresden is that he is feeling the pain, he knows it, and he knows that he also needs to keep the pain, or keep it, and then he needs to accept it and work through it, and not just try to get rid of it.
Harry tends to compartmentalize. He's like, there comes moments in books when he's like, I reach for all that fear and pain and hope and blah, and that's what I use to fuel this spell or that
Right.
potion or this whatever, right?
He knows that it can't just go away.
But yeah,
though.
he doesn't get rid of it. He compartmentalizes, but he does
Eventually learns to live with it and deal with it.
Exactly.
Because right? That's the thing. He's like, okay, this is traumatic, but I can't deal with this right now. I need to get us out of the vampire house. So I have to, right. So, he does. And again, I think for good, bad, or indifferent, again, Justin had a brutal way of imparting all of this. But as a wizard, you need to learn how, right? Like, when he's trying to get Aurora's spell off of him right here, he's like, okay, I need to calm down for a second. I need to concentrate. And he can't concentrate because he can hear his friends calling for help and dying. And you know what I mean? So it's like, it's something you learn very early on in order to do magic. You do need to be able to block out certain distractions, whether it's, your own emotional or noise around you or, sight, sound, touch, smell, whatever, right? So there's that part of it. And then again, you also learn, again, the way he practices magic a lot is it is very emotion fueled and things like that. So exactly, you learn to tuck it away to use it later, or bring it out when you need, or you can't do anything.
He accepts it. He accepts the pain.
Or to deal with it
crazy.
later, or and some of that does, like you say, does take him longer than others sometimes to deal with things, sometimes like this, he's like, I'm just going to put that whole thing about, I'm not going to think about she's gone or that I'm going to find a way to fix it. I'm going to find a way to fix it. I'm going to, and that's like whole point is that he hasn't been dealing sort of with the rest of the trauma from that his girlfriend is gone, that his girlfriend is changed, that his whatever.
And we see how unhealthy he was when he wasn't doing it.
Yeah, right. But that's the thing, right? Is like he, it wasn't just like he's like, oh, it was again, he does take a while to get there sometimes. But yeah, that's it. It's that human condition, right? That there is pain. Although I do find it funny because, considering grave peril, like, I don't know, you had a lot of dead things in that book and a lot of them still seem to be hurting. So one way or another, whether it was inflicted upon them externally or what, but.
Well, even those dead people got a resolution at the very end.
Well, yes, most of them, but yes, it's very well done. It's very, and again, it's that messing with your brain by taking this person who has been, she seemed so good. She was nicer than any fairy he'd ever met before. And then, oh my God, she's the bad guy and she's destroying the world. And then, oh my God, she's just this poor, confused girl who really was. I mean, Dresden even says it when he's telling Billy, or Elaine or whatever, he's like, she thinks she's trying to do the right thing. It's just, what does he say? Insane, but well-intentioned. Fair, whatever, right? So it's like, again, it just brings you back where it's just that moment of, why? I don't understand. I know this is harsh, but I'm just trying to make it better. And he's like, I know. And, it still comes back where he's like, I still just have this young looking girl dying in my arms.
Yeah, we're all the hero in our own stories, and she's not exempt from that.
Thank you to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us to do what we do. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at www.patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 34. Dresden recovers in his apartment, having been taken care of by his friends. Harry is visited by the new Summer Lady and Summer Knight, Lily and Fix. Elaine comes to say goodbye, having been released from her obligations, and Harry visits the Alphas for some much-needed rest and relaxation.
So this is the continuation of that. It's the climax. I saved the world, but it's still so heart-wrenching and gut-punching. He's like, I'd done it. I'd saved the girl, stopped the thief, proved Mab's innocence, and won her support for the White Council, thereby saving my own ass. Huzzah.
There I lay in the ground over Aurora's dead body.
Yeah.
Not so great.
Cradling this girl that bled. I couldn't even give her, the death she wanted. I still had to take that away from her because it still would have done so much more destruction. I couldn't even just let her, bleed out on the, it's like,
Stone
no,
table.
I still had to tackle you to the ground and pin you there and let you bleed out. Yeah, so...
And the queens do come, and they collect Aurora's body.
Yeah, and again, even just that statement, he's like, I lay there with Aurora's empty body. You're like, it's just so... But yeah, he's basically done it. I mean, as anybody would be. I mean, you have a hard workout, and you, don't feel like you can move.
That crash was bad.
War is... Yeah. I was going to say, he said it before, he said it again, that war is the ultimate, physical workout and all of that. He's been running, he's been...
Once that adrenaline rushes off,
yeah. Right. So, yeah, I basically just had to collapse here with this dead body. I saved the world, but I can't, so yeah.
Despite all that, I like that as soon as Mab shows up, he's like, go away.
Yeah, I know. She's like,
She
I'm
does say
well
that she is pleased. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, go away. Like, I don't want you. Like, I'm not proud of this. I'm not happy about this.
right.
Like, I'm glad I saved the world, but I don't like
The means in which it took.
The means and everything I found out in this journey and the peoples and beings that
ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance
And
is bliss.
poor
You know,
Harry.
he's like, I could have done without Lloyd Slate in my life. I could have done without knowing that the Winter Queen is a complete, psychopathic,
Nut job,
sexualized
whatever.
dilettante or whatever. I didn't need to know that the Summer Lady was I didn't need to know that Elaine was, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he's like, basically, I found out all this information and I wish I didn't know any of it.
Yep.
And it's just, but he's like, just go away. And she's like, oh, ha, ha, ha. No, you have to go.
Right. And Harry does ask about Toot, and she replies that it's unusual for people to be able to call fairies into their service, and they won't be held accountable for the actions. But take the box cutters away from them, please.
We'll just take it out of fairy. Yeah, I do like that. She's like, it's unusual, but there has been a precedent. So it's kind of like, Harry's not the first, but at the same time, you're like, well, that makes sense because there's centuries of supernatural stuff. I'm like,
All it took was some pizza.
Can't have Harry be the first for everything and all the... But
There probably wasn't pizza the last time someone did it, so I wonder what used to be the Fey bargaining. Honey, I guess. Honey and bread.
I was going to say he started with, milk and bread and honey, because they can't, and he's just discovered when you combine all of that and make them hot, that's the ultimate. So, so whatever. But yeah, I do like that, where she's like, they were under your responsibility,
That's on
you'll
you.
be held accountable for that, not each individual little peon kind of a thing. You don't realize that he was sort of playing with an extra, like it wasn't just like, hey, Toot, you want to come help me out? And Toot being like, okay. It's like, oh shit, you could have got Toot held responsible for this? Like...
It wasn't just Harry explaining to the alphas and Meryl and Fix what kind of trouble they're getting themselves into. He was talking to that valise bag too.
Yeah, and it's like, does Toot know, or would he know? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, right? So we're like, oh, I didn't even know that was going to be a problem. Ooh, thankfully, that's good. And then, she's like, just get the steel the fuck out of our realm.
All you and your friends can go back home.
All you and your little friends, take everything, take all your shit, get the fuck out,
Right.
So he's like, okay, and so living up to her side of the bargain, right? And she's like, yeah, the wizards can have safe passage. She's like, no, I don't even give a shit about that right now.
Fuck those guys.
Like, we're, right? Like, okay, this is one down. Yes, you fulfilled your bargain. Okay, great. Just
And
two more.
She just happens to ask him,
Unless...
do you want to be the Winter Knight? Just no. No, hell no.
Yeah, not just no. Hell no. You get it from Mab, she's going to be like, well, one bargain is never enough. It just so happens I have something else. You want to change it up again? But yeah, you find out that Lloyd has survived thus far, is that he wasn't bludgeoned to death. And now...
We'll never live comfortably again.
he...
Sucks to be him.
But yeah, when you think about how, again, a couple of broken arms and the bludgeoning and the whatever, now he's like chained with the icy manacles, which just are not comfortable. He's got Maeve, who was already a psychopath and did horrible things to him.
He's a drug
Well,
addict.
he was their knight and on the same side, and just because she could. But now that, now he's betrayed all of them, and now all three of them know, because Mother Winter is also standing there with Maeve. And again, your buddy in summer.
All three queens surrounding the Winter Knight.
All three queens. Aurora's, like, you've got, right, you just know, like, a world of hurt does not begin to describe it.
Well,
like,
and even Mab's, sentence is so terrifying, because she's like, when he's like, yeah, hell no, and she's like, very well then, I'm sure we can find some way to amuse ourselves with this one until time enough has passed to offer again. Scary for Lloyd and scary for Dresden. You're in this position, Lloyd, until I ask Harry again. And Harry, I will be asking again.
and the way that Slate, right, he looks up Blear, right, he's beaten all to hell for whatever, right, he's just been through it all too. Here's Dresden not accept, and he's like, oh no, do not leave me, please take it, let them kill me now, please, give
I'm
me
surprised
death.
that guy didn't have a heart attack from sheer terror right there.
Oh, he should have been so lucky. And I don't know, maybe his body was trying and the fairies were just like,
They
we're
just
not letting you
revive
out of
him
here.
anyway.
Yeah, they're like, you still got that winter power. We're just going to keep. But yeah, he's clearly terrified. And you just know, like, you cannot even envision or imagine the horrors that. And on the one hand, you're like, serves you right. But at the same time, I'm like, nope, that really is going to stretch because, again, I am not a sadistic, emotionless fairy. I don't want to think about what he's, even horrible as he is. What they could do to him is just gut turning.
So further from that point, this moment when the White Council gets involved, as they so rarely do in Harry's life, right? Like, they almost never know what he's been up to or what he's done. They only ever see the after effects or whatever like that, right?
Yeah, just when they get the reports after.
All right, but, like, so you get this
shit,
moment when, like, both, like, Ebenezer and the Gatekeeper, presumably just those two, there could have been more, could have been all of Ebenezer's friends, but at least we know Ebenezer and the Gatekeeper
mentions
show
that,
up.
he has a vague feeling of Ebenezer picking him up and the
And they come
Gatekeeper
to,
talking to Billy.
take him home, and they talk and figure out shit. So I wonder, like, did Mab call them, or did they just suddenly get, like, a letter that was like, ding, 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 war's over, you guys can cross through the underworld? Did they, like...
That's a good point.
Like, did the
How did they
Gatekeeper know? Because he knows so much
Because he
fairy.
was kind of keeping tabs on what was... Because he
Yeah.
kind of said, I'll be watching, listening,
Yeah.
whatever. So
Not sure exactly how they know, but Ebenezer and the Gatekeeper show up to come and, like, pick his, like, almost dead body off the ground and take him home.
Yeah, and you kind of assuming they probably ended up back on the docks or something, like, I guess, since that was the, kind of dropped them off where they started or something. But it does make you kind of wonder a little bit, like, yeah, and I mean, again, Matt very easily could have sent a
messenger
and
easily.
whatever. And
We don't know how long
way
Harry was laying here in a daze.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not forever, because it's still
Sort of
building
setting-
them and all, but...
This precedence has been very much set where he like passes out and wakes up in his bed later going,
Fainting
"What
princess."
the fuck?"
Aurora,
less
fainting princess.
Last fainting princess. He just had the hell beat out of him. And then,
Still, he passes out a lot.
because he is always pushed to the edge, but yes.
How many concussions can one man have until, like, it's permanent brain damage?
Fucking Sam is all over him.
Yeah.
Beyond the
You made way too smart decisions in Battleground for the amount of hits you've had
And
over the last 20
concussions.
years.
Right? Again, it's that fancy, fairy healing and wizard powers, Leah's just like, let me just fix some of that brain damage while I close this
Seriously.
cat on your head, because you're going to need it, boy.
Something wrong with you right now.
I want you to be a hound, but I want you to be a smart hound. It's like, you need to do more than
Until
just lay
then.
there and drool, but...
So
yeah,
he does wake up with Billy by his side, and Billy lets Harry know that Meryl died, but she didn't regret her choice.
Yeah.
And that the alphas are pretty banged up, but they're all alive and mostly well.
Yes, he's a little bit proud. He's like, yeah, we took it on the chin, but he's like, we did all come out of it more or less in one piece. And
So nice.
155 stitches between the lot of us, which is, for 12
Sizable.
people. I mean, 12 by 12 is 144, so that's like at least a minimum of a dozen each, and some of them were, so yeah, that's,
I love that he's so proud of that.
he's just right, he's just like,
The fact that every one of them made it out of a fairy war.
That's
When
exactly.
when Butcher is known to just start, like, Game of Thrones style, just start cutting off the ones who don't have names, like...
Yeah, right, and a lot of alphas don't, exactly. But just that we didn't just sit there and get, you know what I mean? It's like we took our lumps too.
Exactly.
Like we
Yeah.
all were part of that. It's like we all came out bruised and battered, but we all came out. So, yeah.
Dresden notices the place is clean and the laundry is done, but it wasn't Billy this time.
And I was like, oh shit, you cleaned up? He's like, I took a shower and got dressed in clean clothes. Wait a minute, I had clean clothes? Billy's like, not me.
This is not my apartment.
Is impeccable. Even his weapons are attended to. Went over to the alcove with the stove, sink, and icebox. The icebox was an old-fashioned one that was stocked actual ice, given my problem with electricity. So hey, we've corrected the refrigerator comment from the last book. It's not a fridge.
I know.
It's an icebox.
I do still, because again, he's established that right from the start. I feel like that was more
He just forgot for one book.
Translation issue.
Translate, or I feel again just that use of, instead of like icebox, an icebox, a fridge, my cooler, I just feel like it was maybe
Switch up the monotony.
Make sure people know what I'm talking about, like my equivalent of a fridge, I don't know, but yes. His ice-powered icebox.
I can't believe we
His
never
reaction's
had, like,
funny.
a we're not in Kansas anymore Toto joke the whole book. You could have said that to Billy like 100 times when you went up to Fairy.
Could have.
Oh.
But that's the same point that Billy makes in a bit here, too, almost. So, yeah, so he's still... So then he hears a knock at the door, and Billy comes to tell him that there's visiting dignitaries or whatever, and he's still... like, moving around his apartment going, well, like, you know, as he comes out to the main room,
and somebody
like,
made a clerical error, and this is heaven.
like, he's lifting up the rugs and seeing that the floor is clean underneath, and yeah, Billy's eventually like, hello? You know, like, heads of state, you wanna, oh, yeah. And I love how he's like, too, and he's like, when he first says, he's like, oh, the winter lady and night is, he's like, they looking for trouble? He's like, just come out and me, you know? But again, Dresden's like, fuck, what and what now? Like, what are you gonna, you know?
Yes.
But,
Summer Lady and the Knight are Lily and Fix.
Yeah.
Aurora's power went into Lily because of the Knight's power already in her.
So,
and she
again,
had not chosen and is technically still mortal
mortal.
at this point.
Which is interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you have to assume, because again, you know, with having their nice little hillside top divided off from everybody else, is that exactly, it didn't really give much of an opportunity for that to go anywhere else. You know, you don't know how far away anybody else was, but exactly, it was like...
Basically, the only two humans on the hill were Lily and Fix that weren't already...
We're Lily and Dresden.
Lily, Fix, and Dresden.
When the Fix was not inside this, I'm just saying.
Oh, inside the circle, no.
Yes,
but I'm saying on top of all of the cloud whatever.
No, yes.
That weren't already assigned to a place, then it doesn't include Dresden, because
yes.
Dresden was already assigned to winter.
Sorry, fine, yes. I just meant within that.
Let me finish my sentence.
Yeah, well, then say it correctly, because if you're jumping in.
Options for
But
it
yes,
to go places.
There wasn't really anywhere for it to go. And again, like you say, with already having the, you know, it drew that like to like you say, you know, normally would go back to the queens to that. So it was like, well, the only other thing here like me is this. So
Right.
she ended up with both. And I do find it interesting because they sort of touched on this before. Like when he's figuring it out, he's like, okay, so how does the mantle transfer? And the mothers are like, it goes back to the nearest queen and she chooses the next, right? So it's interesting that because I can fully understand, like, okay, you're right, that's where, you know, again, like magnets snapping together or whatever.
Like attracts like, yeah.
Like attracts like. But that Lily then got to choose. You know, it wasn't like Titania came along and was like, okay, here's where the next, you know, and it's funny because Mab sort of makes the joke when she finds out, when Harry confirms that Lloyd is with Aurora, and she's like, well, that's the last time I let Maeve hire the help. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's kind of interesting because it's like, apparently it's a choice, but not a choice. You know what I mean? It's like whoever's there and whoever gathers it up, they get to impart it to the next. So for whatever reason that Maeve killed the last knight or was there when the last knight was killed, that obviously it went to Maeve. And that's why, you know, she was able to choose and give it to Lloyd. And the fact that Lily picks it, the fact that Lily doesn't know anything about this, isn't even a fairy, certainly doesn't know about the fairy. But I mean, again, we start this off with Meryl being like, she's not very good at looking after herself. Like, I live with her because she just
Can't make it on her own.
can't make it on her own. She needs her, you know what I mean? And now it's like, now you're a queen of fairy. Okay, go ahead and choose the, you know
Yeah,
what I
right.
mean? It's not like Titania's like, let me just do this for you, you know? It's like, she's got the power. She gets to put it where she wants. And they gotta stick with it. But yes, and that's Fix, which is a brilliant decision, of course. Because, of course, we know what Fix is, and we're like, hey, and it's our only buddy left. Meryl died, Ace,
Defector.
yeah. Ace was a traitor, and so, yeah. And he was the one that he was there with Meryl to save her, and, you know, and then I like this, too, and he's like, well, it works for me. He's like, he already kicked the Winter Knight's ass, right? And she's like, what? And I love how he does, like, the little, like, I swear he, like, scuffed his
Shucks.
Yeah, it's very cute.
I know, you're like, oh, that's our Fix.
Now, Lily, she does thank Dresden for helping her and saving her life, but not only does she do that, she offers him a safe place if he ever needs it, and do what she can, which is a big deal, getting a guarantee like
You
that.
got a favor
from a summer lady. Like,
summer lady, yeah.
That's a big trump card right there.
This is huge, yeah. This is no peanuts kind of a thing. This is like a major marker.
Yeah, he didn't have to sell his soul at all.
I know. He's like, no other extra bargains and whatever.
They're still getting used to the little fairy thing.
Yeah, and he still tries to do, you know, she's like, oh, I can't thank you enough, you know, because she's like, you know, I owe you my life. He's like, oh, you don't owe me anything. He's like, apparently I just do it on reflex, which I'm like, oh, that's nothing. You know, you've been doing it on reflex since the very first book where you said you reflexively say, you know, even though they hate it. And then he's like, oh, she just hired me. And I'm like, well, then it's not on reflex if you were doing it because you were getting paid, Harry. So which is it? Either you do it on reflex, or you do it because you're chivalrous, or you do it because you're moral.
It's called expressions, okay? Chill.
Well, quit mixing them up and mashing them together.
That's what you do.
I know, but I am not a paid professional like Dresden. I don't know. Shut up, Jessica. Nobody asked you. I only do it because I'm tongue-tied in my...
So Fix lets Harry know that he had the brownies clean up and that he fixed the beetle.
Yeah! So that's it. So yeah, it was like very cool. Where she's like, I just sent some brownies in to fix up your... And apparently they do a fantastic job. And it's cute because when he's discussing it too, it makes sense because he's like, there's a new like litter box that's like made out of like a fresh pine, and like Mister's food bowls are made, so it's all this like all natural, organic, right? Like fairies are not like another cheap plastic box and like, no, it's like,
Get quality shit.
high quality, homemade, handmade.
Well, I think this is probably one of the first times that we actually see him
ahead of the game.
do well at the end of something.
Yes, come on.
Beyond maybe the big giant gold nugget, which we know he wrecked that one.
He blew
Lost
on
it
medical
immediately.
bills on the beetle or something like that. Yeah. But yes, exactly. It's one of the few benefits where it's like his place got clean. And I mean, again, it was the worst it's ever been, But again, he's referred to being a bachelor before. So, well, his place was probably moderately, not like a complete pigsty, obviously, bachelor land with, Coke and SpaghettiOs and coffee cups,
He needed the help. He did.
So it's like now it's just like, yeah, it's like such a huge scrub down deep clean on his apartment, It's just...
It's hard when something gets so overwhelmed like that. Like
When
it's
you-
getting out of it is just so much.
been there, done that too. When you actually get to that point of letting it,
And it shows how much support he has.
yeah, and it's like they even like restocked like the cupboard and the fridge and stuff. So it's like he's even actually got some food now.
They left him in a good spot.
I was gonna say I don't know how much.
Because he didn't really make a whole lot of money this go round.
I was just gonna say I'm like I don't know how much of that $1,000 retainer he has left after having to, get cab rides and
Box
this and
cutters.
that and you know what I mean.
and he's
right?
definitely not going to get paid out for the rest
And
of
he's
it because
not
she's
gonna
dead.
I promise you, triple, quadruple. You know what? We'll make it 10 times now because I'm. But yeah, exactly right. He's not getting the rest. He never got any money off Mabs, so yeah, all of that, and then he's got this big fat. So he actually invites them, which is funny. You realize then that they've had this whole entire conversation in the doorway because then he invites them in and they sit and they chat and they visit, which is great and it's cool. But I'm like, again, maybe this is just me and I haven't learned how to be an adult yet. But I'm like, okay, he kind of knows Fix, but I'm like, this is literally the first time he's ever had a conversation with Lily. Like, they weren't talking up on that hill. They were busy
They
scrambling.
bonded by being saved.
Still, the queen shows up at your doorstep. You got to invite him.
Yeah.
I guess, but when are you gonna sit and talk? And he's like, oh, we had a nice chat. They seem like good kids. I'm like, well, Fix seems awful. Like, I mean, again, maybe he's a little bit more, I dealt with Dresden a little bit. Maybe he's over some of that, and
Little
now
less
he's got all
afraid
this
now that he's got
fancy
power.
new power. Yeah, that he's a little bit more confident, but. It's just, I'm like, if this was somebody I'd never met.
Maybe
and didn't
Lily's very
know- I'm like,
chatty.
maybe, I don't know, but it's funny. I'm just like, if this was me, I'm like, I might feel that obligation. I'm like, I'm not saying I don't understand, but I'm just like, it would be so awkward. I don't know what I would talk about with these people. But anyways,
So they do take their leave, and Elaine shows up and lets him know that she's leaving. She's no longer beholden to Summer with Aurora's death.
Honestly, though, imagine you get the shit kicked out of you. Everything sucks, and you wake up and knock, 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 knock. I'm like,
yeah,
fuck off.
like, I just woke up from like a 3-day coma. Can you all just like give me a minute?
Actually, we have to wrap this book up, so we're all coming today.
So my problem with this, you should be happy, Jessica, because mostly they all are with like Elaine's things. So I don't know why you keep fighting me every time
Sorry,
I
what?
come up with a problem on something. So
It's just such a nitpicker.
it is. So when she first shows up at his apartment and she says, I'm in trouble. I ran to Summer. Titania is making me, I owe my life to Titania if I don't do this. So he's like, hey, did Summer hold up their end of the bargain? And she's like, well, technically I owed it all to Aurora anyway. So whether she's going to quibble, whether I paid her or not, it's a moot point. I'm like,
Yes, that's
so
Titania.
you didn't know anything to Titania? So it wasn't the whole time?
Maybe she was just saying that to raise the stakes, make Harry care more, though.
Right, this is the thing, right? I was like, did you flip somewhere and change who was? Or was it again just to make him more involved? Or was it again you just trying to make it sound more like...
Butcher should have used it.
Oh, she might not know, like he might not know who all... Which apparently he didn't know who all the players were in Summer because he didn't know there was 3 queens, but maybe she was just like, oh, same way like when you talk about people to your, you don't bother like explaining your best friend's son's wife. You're just like, Joe said this or whatever, But I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of funny. I was like, you made this whole big deal about Summer and Titania and whatever, and you were going to be dead. Now you're like, oh, well, it was Aurora anyway. She's dead. I'm good.
Fuck it,
I'm
whatever.
like, okay.
Elaine does address Susan and tells Harry to stop feeling sorry for himself. You were living in a sewer, Harry. I understand that there's something you're blaming yourself for. I'm just guessing at the details, but it's pretty clear you were driving yourself into the ground because of it. Get over it. You aren't going to do her any good as a living mildew collection. Stop thinking about how bad you feel, because she cares about you at all. If she cares about you at all, it would tear her up to see you like I saw you a few days ago.
I was going to say, like, I saw this place a few days ago.
Yeah, so she's probably wondering, how the hell did you get this cleaned up? And you gotta wonder, too, like, so I sort of maybe guess fairies all mystical, but exactly, I'm like, Harry apparently has been out for like a couple of days at least. I can't remember, but Billy says, he slept for like a day and a half or 2 or 3 days or whatever it is. And suddenly so I'm like, okay, I could kind of maybe see them. Again, they've had brownies in to tidy up the apartment. Maybe she left one, like, hey, let me know when Harry's conscious or something. But then Elaine magically knows. I'm like, or has she been coming by every day to see if, you know what I mean? I was like, how come all these people suddenly know, like, you've been out for 3 days and now everybody's gonna show up when you're magically awake and alert again. And, But yes, she saw the chaos and the carnage, and now it's all doop-de-doo. And he's just like, romantic advice from you. Yeah, I know. But trust me on it.
Well, and he needs to hear it.
Yeah.
He'll probably be more likely to listen to it from her, being what her status was at one point.
Yeah, I mean, as much as anything else. But yeah, I was like, just get that sort of extra dig in there, like, really, you're, like, okay, certainly tried to kill you like half a dozen times, Harry. It's fine. It's cool.
Just get over your shit, buddy.
I didn't
get over
mean
it.
any of it, yeah.
And then, like you said, a book that actually ends on a high note for once.
So he goes, because Billy had mentioned that they're going to have this get-together with everybody tonight, now that everybody's out of the hospital and everything like that. And lo and behold, Harry actually shows up. Because this is the thing, he's like, I hung out with you, because Billy's like, you never come out and do anything with us. At the beginning, he's like, I went to that football game. He's like, yeah, it was in January, it's June, right? So it's like, obviously, right, they've been trying and doing, and he hasn't. So here he's like, okay, finally has had enough go on. His head knocked around enough, literally and figuratively, that, he's been pulled out of that. Basically, somebody finally made him get up out of his basement and go into the real world, and he suddenly sort of realized everything that he's been blocking out and missing, and on kind of goes, shit, yeah, my place was a mess, I was a mess, my life, my business, right?
Right.
So,
and they do start gaming, and Dresden requests Thews. And for those of you like me that had to look this up, it's a barbarian character sheet that he asked for. Barbarian.
Yes. Yeah.
And Harry does address that this is better than being locked in the lab. And to me, this is confirmation of him actually starting the healing process.
Gross. It is, right? Well, this is like you say, when you first suddenly come out and take a look around and realize, like, holy shit, I have, you know what I mean? Like, exactly, right? Like, we've all had those, whether it's like a day or a week or a month or, just a certain situation on the side or whatever, right? But it's like, once you finally start to get some perspective from it and remove from it a second, you start to go, whoa, something needs to be done or whatever, right? So, yeah, the healing process, the realization, he's finally taken a step back from being in the middle of it to realize just how low he was and what.
Right.
And
he is starting to move on, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
there is a silver lining in the distance.
There's a silver lining. And this is, to me, speaks a little bit to what you were just saying about the Kansas and Toto, right? Is that Billy is like, you know what? Like, the one thing, like, all these fairies and queens and, nobody quoted old Billy Shakespeare, not even once. And it's true because Mab and Titania and that are the names that Shakespeare used for, he
created it.
He created those, so though, you know what I mean? We've got a million different things, people all like to create their own names for stuff, but it's like, no, he was taking it from there, so a very specific nod to, and that I was like, yeah, he's like, we did have this whole thing, like this whole summer's night's dream was the whole, and nobody ever, and Harry's just like, what? Like, he just, this is like,
and they laugh,
this is your takeaway, yeah, right? He's kind of like, this is your takeaway from all of this, is that like all this mess and mayhem and running for our lives. You're like, nobody stopped and brought up like Shakespeare,
So many missed opportunities.
So then he has to end it on, right? He's like, Lord, what fools these mortals be. So yes, it was, and well, even just to eat, drink, and be merry. But yeah, I love how he kind of picks the barbarian too, because he's like, I don't want to think, I don't want to plant, I just mindless barbarian. Let me just, yeah. He's like, I don't want to be a wizard. I don't want to plan spells and think about how to get. He's like, let me just smash. Let me just Hulk smash and just, right. That will be my role tonight,
Right.
you know. And but yeah, so
Do you ladies have any overall wrapping up thoughts on the book?
oh, probably lots, but they've all.
I really do love Summer Night.
It is a
That's
really
a good
good
one.
book, and it
It's
holds up.
so
It's very
fast,
enjoyable,
fast,
yeah.
fast. We got so much to do, so much to see. Here's some motherfucking lore.
Yeah, right.
And a good chunk of lore that we didn't, like, it's not rehashing any lore. Like, this is a whole other side of the world.
Yeah, he's only touched on fairies and things before. Now we're sort of doing the deep dive into it. And even for a deep dive, there will still be more to explore and more to be revealed and more to come with. But, you know,
As Map is threatened.
yeah.
This concludes our episode 9.23, The Unraveling. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.